the Ocean of Pixar journey, where we watch everything Pixar has ever made. That means movies, shorts, tech demos, and more. And today, it is me and Danny.
I'm Danny.
And yes, that's Danny, and we're joined by two guests. Would you mind introducing yourselves?
Hi, I'm Thomas. I'm Mark's brother. That's pretty much the most relevant plug I can give myself for my position here.
Yeah, I'm Mason. I am Thomas's friend, and an actor, I guess I should say that. But yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring you all on for this episode, but that was before that. I know you all had a big life upheaval moment. I wondered if you wanted to share about that.
Oh yeah, I just moved in with him in California, so now my family, we're originally from the Midwest, and they're baffled that Mark's on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast, and that's just a kind of an interesting thing that we're having to deal with right now.
Are you originally from, like, Illinois, Mason?
So my parents both were born in the St. Louis area. My dad's from St. Louis. My mom is St. Louis as well. But they moved to California, and I was born out in California. I was born in Van Nuys. That's where I'm from. So I was born here, and then we moved back to Illinois when I was 5. And I moved back here 2 years ago. Last year? A year and a half? Somewhere like that. A year and a half ago now. Yeah, so it's been a minute, but yeah, it's nice to have Thomas here because, you know, we grew up together, so.
I think that probably came up a little bit during the Finding Nemo episode, because remember when I talked about, you know, having beach memories and pool memories associated with Finding Nemo? Mason's family is the family that those were shared with.
Ah.
Yeah, whenever we met, it was all about the pool, and now I moved out and to make it all about the ocean, so.
And that's what we're looking for.
Such a change of pace.
See, I have Finding Nemo.
Incredible dedication to the bit.
Finding Nemo is just my favorite Pixar movie too. I grew up on that.
Mason, you've been in California for a second, and Thomas, you know, you've been there for like a day. Have you had like weird adventures?
I did have a pretty cool job. I recently worked at Warner Brothers as a studio tour guide. So,
cool.
Yeah.
I love jobs like that. Go on. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It was a really fun job. I got to like show guests around the lot, and they got to see like where shows filmed. We get to go inside sound stages if the show isn't filming that day, or they allow us to go in there. You know, since it's Warner Brothers, we got to see like people really love The Big Bang Theory and Friends, and so we filmed those shows, and I get to show guests all the cool stuff that we own from those shows, as well as like DC Comics and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. I got to see like cool celebrities, but I didn't stick around because in the off season they don't get a ton of guests coming, so just don't get as many hours, you know.
Well,
I was surprised you sent some. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I've sadly never done one of the studio tours. When I've gone to LA twice, both for Pixar movies. But the thing is that last time I was there, I did the Academy Museum, but we wanted to do the tours, but we just really couldn't make it work with our schedule.
Sure.
Because we had one of our friends who will actually be on our podcast, I think, next week. One of my friends, and the other friend I went with friends. Mark doesn't know this person. They're like, you have to go to Knott's with me, because I know you're a big theme park person. So we didn't have time to do anything else other than going to Knott's and then the museum and then the beach.
Universal's kind of nice because you get a theme park and they get their studio tour, but the Universal studio tour is not the same. It's a scripted thing. Ours is entirely improvised. We know, like, it's very cool. We cater our tour depending on our guests' interests. So I'll have, at the beginning of my tour, I'll be like, hey, so does anyone know what they're a fan of here at Warner Brothers? And people will say, oh, I like the Looney Tunes. And my favorite thing to do for my guests, I have my guests call me Shaggy. And my favorite thing to do, I'd be like, so does anyone here like Scooby-Doo? And then someone would go, oh yeah, me. And I go, like, me too, man.
Oh my gosh, yours is so much better than mine.
I've been doing that.
I was Shaggy for Halloween last year. That's why I was.
Oh
like,
yeah,
gosh,
I'm Shaggy every Halloween, so it's just so easy. It's a green T-shirt.
Yeah.
When you say you cater it, do you mean you cater the topics you talk about, or do you have like a path and you can deviate from the path?
Mark, I swear, I thought you were gonna ask. Does this mean you like make them lunch? I swear that's where that question was.
No, but they actually do get lunch on like
Shaggy.
the deluxe tour. But no, we improvise the entire thing. So I get to choose where I go, what I want to say, what I want to talk about, all just depending on what I think my audience is going to enjoy the most. And we had a lot of really cool things that filmed there, and just cool little fun facts. Like the Call of Duty franchise did most of the recording for all of the weaponry noises in one of our backlots.
Neat. That is neat.
Yeah, there's just like cool little fun facts like that. Like one of my favorite ones is that Batman quite literally saved the Warner Brothers studio because the Michael Keaton Batman was such a huge box office success that they were able to they were merged with a different company at the time. I don't remember which company it was, but they were able to completely take back their own lot. So they had like a whole parade for Michael Keaton's Batman, and he got to be at the front of the parade in the Batmobile.
Did they blur the Prince music from that movie? Because I really hope they did. Or do you not know?
I don't know. But Prince's album cover for Purple Rain did take place on our backlots. There's a lot of just really cool random fun facts that happen at a movie lot. It was really cool to get to hear about all that stuff, although it was not enough focused on animation, which I was bummed about because I am a huge Scooby-Doo buff.
Isn't the animation stuff, I don't know for WB, but I know a lot of the animation stuff is centered in Burbank's around there too. But you know what I mean? Like, it's not, I didn't think it was really like in downtown LA or wherever, Hollywood area, wherever this studio lot is. Sorry.
The studio lot is in Burbank, actually.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah,
I'm showing mass.
But Warner Brothers Animation is in a different area because back in the day, Warner Brothers Animation did not get along too well with Jack Warner. So they eventually, I don't know if that's the exact reason, but they didn't get along, and eventually they got a lot of revenue, so they got their own place off lot at Warner Brothers Animation. So that's where they work. But there is still like buildings where they used to work on our lot that we like to talk about.
Am I wrong about Glendale too being like a big animation place? Or was that more in the past?
It has a few studios, but nowadays it's not necessarily like a big animation hub, I don't think.
Thomas, do you have first impressions?
Yeah, well, we bought groceries today, which before I bought groceries for the first time, I managed to acquire employment just out here in the, not really sticks, but the suburbs, so not at all the sticks. And if you put it that way, it seems like I was going to get employment like that, which is what happened. Our landlady asked me if I wanted to be involved with be a production assistant on a film crew. And
that's nice. That's really cool.
I have never been on a set in my life. Tomorrow I'm starting that, so...
Can I ask a bizarre question? Where did you guys go grocery shopping?
I was gonna say, at Costco.
Having a Costco membership is like gold as an adult, in my opinion. Like,
Does Costco buy you? That's the thing. I agree, but there's
Costco is just amazing. It's just, if I go on a date and I want to impress a girl, I'm gonna mention that I have a Costco card.
Can I clarify though why I asked where you shopped? It's because I have a friend in my group chat that I've mentioned on this podcast before, but it's like a lot of people. But this is one of my friends in LA, who's another friend I met up with when I went to LA. But he constantly talks about how he's like, oh, spending the Saturday at Ralph's again. So I was like, were you at Ralph's? Because we don't have Ralph's here.
I've gone to Ralph's, but it's just
I know.
another, like, any place, you know?
I just know there's some people who are, like, obsessed with it in California.
I don't get it. It's like people are obsessed with Trader Joe's, and, like, some places just have better prices, but it's like if you just want to get a good, consistent, everything's cheaper, but bulk, Costco's your place.
Thomas, if I may ask, since I know you just moved to California, have you visited before, or is this like full-blown new to you?
So I have visited twice. Once Mason and I got a bed and breakfast, and he showed me around where he spent his college time in California, so that he went to AMDA.
Hey, can you like describe what's happening for this audio medium?
If we were lucky, we were gonna find out, and we found out.
There is. She's a very
cool.
Bikini?
Yeah, she's a very...
No, we can't see it. This is recorded.
Oh, well, there's us.
This is an audio medium. It's like
it's
whenever
Yeah, so there's my gray cat has decided to hop onto Thomas's lap because...
Oh, and she brought you a DVD.
It's true.
Yeah, she brought me.
What?
She delivered Cody Maverick.
She brought me Cody Maverick from Surf's Up on my
Wait, you have a picture of him?
Asus Chromebook.
Oh, yeah, it's sitting right there. I have a really interesting decor choice in my house because behind us, which obviously you can't see, but it's way in a corner, there is just a cutout of Dean Norris's head. Dean Norris from Breaking Bad.
Yeah, Hank Schrader, yeah.
Yep. It's from what's funny is I got it at work at Warner Brothers from like a poster they were getting rid of for a show called The United States of Al, and you probably have never heard of it.
What a title!
Right? But working at a movie studio makes you really appreciate how successful some shows and movies really are, because the amount of titles I saw go through there that no one I know has ever heard of or ever will hear of is just astounding. There's at least like 30 different titles that I could name that I know that no one here would ever think of or even know.
I feel like we don't talk enough about bad movies having good titles. And that's something that I think about a lot, because I like a good title. I tend to like longer ones, or anything kind of artsy like Sweet Smell of Success or The Postman Always Rings Twice. And I think that 80 for Brady is a great title.
It is a good title.
I can agree with that.
I go to the Music Box, which is a local theater in Chicago all the time. And earlier this month, they were advertising a 35mm print of Zabriskie Point. I don't know what that movie is. But what got me hyped about it was not that title, but it was like, with short, and the short's title is, let me read it. It's the short, I just looked up, because I was like, oh, that title's so good, is God respects us when we work, but loves us when we dance. And I'm like, ooh, that's a great title. I love that title.
Is it playing before Zabriskie Point?
It was playing before. This was like a few weeks ago they played Zabriskie Point. I couldn't make it out for it, but I saw the commercial, and it's like, this short's of it too. I was like, ooh, I want to watch that short, because that's a great title. I don't know if it's any good, but good title.
I'm impressed if a movie can be so bad that people, like, it can make money at the box office and people will talk shit about it, but it still drew people in, just based on, like, maybe title or names or, like, whatever. I'm kind of impressed by the ability to make that happen, to make money off of a piece of shit. That, to me, is funny. Like the movie Angels and Demons. Have you seen that one?
I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about. I saw the sequel, and it's the only one I've seen of that trilogy. Because Angels and Demon, I know is the second one. I saw Inferno, and then when I got out, it was like the 7th or 8th inning of like the World Series where the Cubs was about to win. So like I was like, oh, and I thought I don't care about sports, but that night I was like, I guess I do care, because they might actually do this. And then I was like, we can't talk about Inferno. We need to watch the end of this baseball game that I never watch.
Thomas, do you have any choice titles?
Choice titles? I'm wondering what you guys look for. How do you detect that a film is going to be so bad it's good based on the title? Like, are you looking for something just there, or do you have to have the reputation beforehand and then you're like...
I don't think that's the method. I think that a good title can kind of exist on its own, but more, Mason, what you were talking about, I think a good star brings people in. If it has a good title, it really has nothing to do with the quality of the movie. It's just some nice set of words that sticks in my brain.
Wait, but if we're talking about titles that immediately signal the movie might be a special type of bad, let me tell you. So, as I've said before, I love the Music Box here in Chicago, and I think it was like February 2019, they announced, we're showing this film that we believe might be the Christian version of The Room, and I'm like, okay, maybe we'll see about that. Like, and then the title, they're like, here's the title: Surfer: Teen Confronts Fear. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, that's gotta be a bad movie. That's the title: Surfer: Teen Confronts Fear. I think it toured like the art house theaters that show bad movies, and it never got a release otherwise. But I've been like, ooh, I really hope that comes back someday, because I would love to watch that again. That was so. It was like the good type of bad movie, you know? There was like a 10-minute sequence where the guy just started ranting about ectoplasm, and at one point you could see like the script like being handed to him and then taken back out of frame. I
always wonder how these marketing teams can be so good that, like, sometimes you see movies that come out and you see a lot of advertising for them and it seems like it's getting a lot of attention and it's got no big names attached at all. And then, like, for instance, I watched this movie called Separation. Worst 2 hours I've ever spent in a movie theater, let me tell you. It was one of the most slow burn...
Is this the Iranian film, Separation? No. Okay, because I haven't seen... Okay, go on, sorry.
It's like a horror movie, but it's the most slow burn, not scary, most anticlimactic ending to a horror movie, and it was, like, wild to me how it was being played on a national level to people.
I'm gonna look at this because I pride myself on having what I call my encyclopedic knowledge of movies that came out, but I have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm like, what? What is
2021 horror movie. 4.7 on IMDb, 7% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, this is from the director of... This is a 1.8 on Letterboxd.
You know what? I think the biggest name they have is Violet McGraw, the child actor. Because I've seen her in other things.
It says it has Brian Cox in it.
I wrote a review on it.
He gets around, man.
I see that this is from the director of the Boy movies and Orphan First Kill and The Devil Inside. So I guess he's just a very... Like, he gets work. You know, he's a horror director that does work. Yeah. I liked Orphan First Kill. I didn't like The Boy, and I haven't seen the other ones, but Orphan First Kill is more of a comedy anyway. So...
This one is just definitely not it, though. But, like, yeah, sometimes it's shocking to me how these movies can manage to get to national levels.
How did they...
Well, I think, people like
Oh, this came out, like, in May
think
21.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Got it.
I don't know. I feel like I need to remind myself of that, is that people like a lot of things.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know what? I think also the COVID era had an effect on what movies were making it out there because there was such a lack of content.
I was going to say, May 2021 would mean this came out right before A Quiet Place, Quiet Place 2 reopened the movie theaters, like, with big movies, you know?
Yeah.
So it would have been just in under the wire of... like, we're putting anything in theaters now because the theaters desperately need something.
It's true. They just did need things to play. I also saw that movie. It was like almost like an X-Men origin story about mutants. And I
liked that one, but it wasn't good. It's New Mutants.
The New Mutants, yeah. It was not good. It was like weird. It was really weird.
I like that it existed. You know what I mean? That's my whole thing that I used to be, and I used to have a Marvel podcast. And you know how people were always like, oh yeah, Disney bought Marvel and bought Fox, so now we can get X-Men stuff in it. If I'm like, yeah, but like if Disney had always had X-Men, you would never have gotten a movie like Logan, and you would have never gotten like a historically like bad movie like X-Men Origins Wolverine. And I think there's merit in having... That's what I like about both DC and the Fox Marvel stuff, is that you never knew what you were going to get, which made every movie exciting. Whereas with Marvel, it's all that basic level of quality. Maybe up a bit, maybe down a bit, but it's all pretty fluid. You know what I mean? It's all about the same. But, like, with DC, you can get, like, a movie like the first Wonder Woman, or you could get a movie like Suicide Squad.
Have either of you seen Turning Red?
Mark, you're jumping ahead. We're gonna...
Yes, I have seen Turning Red because of my exposure during watching Kids at Latchkey. So,
oh wow,
the little ones did watch Turning Red one day, and that was...
We're not allowed to show it to our kids, sadly.
I've never
even heard of it. For that.
You've never heard of Turning Red?
No.
It's the Pixar movie that came out last year. That's good. Okay, it's not about Buzz Lightyear.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't see that one either. The animation scared me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, kind of spooky.
That one's not worth your time. And if we have a Pixar podcast, we're saying a Pixar thing is not worth your time.
Yeah,
it's not worth your time.
It's just like I'm not gonna recommend to people like when they ask me for like recommend because people at work come to me for the Scooby-Doo recommendations. I'm not gonna go ahead and say to watch the live actions that don't have Matthew Lillard. Like I'm not gonna tell you to go watch the Velma series. I know what Scooby-Doo's right. You know what Pixar's right.
I just remember, I wanted to mention this earlier briefly, but when you mentioned you were Shaggy at work, I remember the greatest day in college for me. Maybe that's overselling it, but it was the day we did a series of plays, and I was in 3 of them. And the order of characters I played were Ghost Luke Skywalker, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, and God. Those were the characters I played. And
he ordered that in highest to lowest power as well.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing about playing Shaggy was really funny was the director told me he wanted to be like kind of like Velma, actually, now that we're thinking about it, where it's like, I want it just to be in the script that these are Scooby characters. I don't want you to like think of your character as Scooby-Doo. And I was just like, nah, man. And I did a really bad Shaggy voice.
I just want them to bring Matthew Lillard back as Shaggy. Just do it. Just make him Shaggy again, because he's the best since Casey Kasem. And
I think he is, though. Like, in like the normal stuff, I thought he is still Shaggy.
Well,
like I say no, like the non-adult cartoon stuff, because I'm sure there's other Scooby stuff on besides Velma right now.
He has been in like since the Scooby-Doo live actions. He did voice stuff for the animated movies, like that would come out every couple of years. You know, like Scooby-Doo, Zombie Island, the best piece of Scooby-Doo there is.
I know he was on Mystery Incorporated.
Yeah, Mystery Incorporated was also very slept on, and it's a lot of people don't know why it didn't get popularity, but it's because Cartoon Network used to air it at like 4 a.m, so people wouldn't see it because they didn't want it to get success because they didn't think it was a good show.
That show and Gravity Falls are both like in that era where the first season was airing when I was in in high school, like my junior year maybe, and I tried to catch it, but then as you said, it was like impossible to really catch, and then it took them forever to come out the second season, and then when I was in college, I was like, I don't even have cable right now. I don't know how to. I can't find this. Like,
yeah, Netflix revived it. Netflix revived that series.
Yeah, I mean, I've been meaning to go back and finish it, but we'll see. You know, like I've been meaning to go back and finish it since it's been done. So we'll see if that ever happens.
Last year, they were actually in talks of possibly doing a third season.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
It would be very cool, considering the fan base. Like, it had a huge cult following when it popped up on Netflix again. Because I hadn't even really heard of it until it came on Netflix, like, when I watched it, like, 6-7 years ago.
I'm curious if that show is popular with kids. And the reason I say that is because I work with kids too, Thomas. But Avatar: The Last Airbender was put on Netflix. All my kids started watching it, even though, like, you know, to them it was just a new cartoon. So I'm curious if Scooby-Doo had this similar, like, if it had a because I know that show was really popular when people our age, but I'm curious if it, like, is popular with these kids too, who just viewed it as a cartoon that's available to them.
Well, when I first initially watched it, I was like only 13, 14 when I saw it on Netflix, because my family was early on the Netflix train, and it came on there when I was like 13, 14, maybe 15. But I really enjoyed it. However, I am obviously a Scooby-Doo super fan, but Thomas enjoyed it too. Most of the people I showed it to enjoyed it, and so I think it appealed to people who are high school age and maybe to like high school to like low middle school.
Shall we play games?
I love a game.
Love a good game.
All right, this is my game, the letterbox game. I'll explain what it is, then we'll figure out how to do this, because I don't think we've ever had 3 competitors before, so we'll figure it out. But the letterbox game, we're gonna try to guess movies based on films that Letterboxd says we might also enjoy, because they have a feature now where it's the algorithmically related film to the film you just watched at the bottom of the page. So if Letterboxd recommends Big Hero 6 and Megamind in the recommended tab, you might be trying to guess Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Like, that's an example I could give you. I start by giving you the first 5 recommended titles. After each wrong guess of the original movie, you'll get more titles or another hint. I leave titles out of the recommended list if they have the same director of the original film or are in the same franchise. So if I was doing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I would not say The Amazing Spider-Man, because that's a Spider-Man movie. Or I also wouldn't say this is a detail that you might want to know. It's kind of important for one of the movies this time. I also wouldn't say Captain America: Civil War, because even though it's not a Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man does appear in that film. Wink, wink. That might be something important to know later on in one of the rounds we have set up. I also wouldn't say Rise of the Guardians for Spider-Verse, because that is also directed by Peter Ramsey, who directed Spider-Verse.
Oh, there's a lot of knowledge in this. Okay.
Now, first, I will give this is how I always kick off before we figure out the rules, is just as an example, makes it easier for a guess. For Surf's Up, what we did for Surf's Up, your 5 films would be Madagascar, Cars, Finding Nemo, Ice Age, and Shark Tale. This is really interesting to me that there is no Happy Feet in the top 5, but whatever. Yeah. There's also no March of the Penguins in the top 25 either, which is like, okay. But anyway, that's a whole different barrel of worms. Barrel of worms, I should definitely say that constantly.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Before, one other thing I'll say, to keep it easier for the guests, is what I do with guests is I get rid of the films that made less than $100 million at the box office. So these are all movies that were financial successes, and they're in order by most popular to least popular Letterboxd. Not by money, but like that popularity. But as I said to you guys, I think these are all very popular films. I'll be surprised if you haven't seen these. Now that I've said that, I'm sure I will be proven wrong, because that's always what happens when I say that. Now, how do we want to do this? Because we've never had 3 guests before.
I think we should all do it against each other. So we'll have 3 people all fighting.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
And so what we'll do then is each round of guess, you will all lock in a guess. Okay?
Yeah.
All
And
right.
there's no order that you have to answer in either. If you're like, know it right away, just go for it.
All right. Ready for round 1?
Sure.
Yes.
Aha.
All right. Your 5 films are Serenity. This is the Joss Whedon Serenity film that's a spinoff of Firefly. Dune 2021. Jupiter Ascending. The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Valerian in the City of 1,000 Planets.
Gonna go ahead and say Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'm going to
Only-
guess Avatar 2.
Only movie in my mind is Ender's Game.
Oh, that's
All
a
right.
good shout.
All of you are wrong, but we'll see if
Okay.
any of you hit the top 25. So that was what was said. Guardians is in the top 25. Ender's Game is not in the top 25, and Avatar 2 is not in the top 25. So if you all tie, which I think is very possible with this one, we'll say that your Guardians guess will break that tie to get you the point. Okay? Because the next thing we give you is the year, and I'll be very surprised if you don't all lock in on and after I give you the year, because the year is 1977.
Star Wars.
Yeah, I was gonna Star Wars.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
we gotta-
I will let you all pick Star Wars with 1977 sci-fi movie.
Right.
Why'd you see
First
Star Wars?
Pac-Man.
I'm gonna say Deep Space.
Because this was on my this was during that week I was sick, and I was at home, and I had some not DVD commentaries, but basically I've had some podcast commentaries I wanted to listen to, and one of them is actually previous guest on our podcast, Caleb. His Star Wars therapy podcast did a Star Wars commentary, and I wanted to listen to it. So I removed obviously 10 movies from this list because there are 11 Star Wars movies, so I removed 10 of them. But in order, just because I think this is funny, these are apparently the most common to the original Star Wars movie of Star Wars to the least. So the order would go: Star Wars: The Force Awakens is the most like Star Wars. Then Episode
That is very
1,
true.
yeah. Then Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, Empire Strikes Back, Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, The Last Jedi, Attack of the Clones, Rise of Skywalker, and then Solo.
Where was A New Hope?
This is A New Hope.
That
This
is-
Star
that
Wars.
is A New
This
Hope.
Star Wars.
Right,
You
right, yeah,
guessed
yeah,
A New
I'm
Hope.
like, yeah, right. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm like waiting for my favorite movie.
Yeah, well,
You
it's
said
the one
it.
you guessed. You already got it.
it.
All right. You ready for round 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in.
All right. Round 2 goes Poseidon, The Perfect Storm, The Notebook, The Poseidon Adventure, which, to be clear, that's the original movie, and Poseidon was the remake.
Yeah.
And then the last one is The Legend of 1900, which is a movie I've never heard of, and I can explain what it is, because I think the premise of it is really cool if you guys don't know what that movie is.
I want to hear about it, but I want to make my guess first, and that's
I-
Titanic.
I was
in
I was also
3D.
gonna say Titanic because obviously you
I'm
said
gonna go Clash of the Titans.
that was a secondary guess just based on titles. Maybe the algorithm's weird.
Yeah, Clash of the Titans is not top 25, but yes, it's Titanic. I had to remove A Night to Remember, the 1953 version of Titanic,
Because the Titanic
and the
is a
1996
character.
version of Titanic.
Couldn't they have just like made the door a little smaller so everyone wouldn't be pissed for 20 years?
Well, let me tell you, James Cameron has just released, I believe, an hour-long special explaining exactly why everyone is wrong to be yelling about that. Because James Cameron is still upset he's being argued.
but the fact that she didn't try, okay? That's the issue. Because any normal person looks at that and assumes maybe there's enough space to like give it an effort. You know, if you're gonna cry about someone dying, but you don't put in maximum effort to save them, should you really be crying?
I'm gasping right now. Not at you, because I'm looking at The Legend of 1900, and now I need to look up just to make sure I wasn't wrong. This might be a movie that does feature Titanic as a character, as I say. So let me double check, even though I will then explain what it is. I'm just curious if it does actually take place on the Titanic. No, it does not. It's a fictional film. But okay, so The Legend of 1900 is about a baby boy that is discovered on a ship, an ocean liner, and they name him 1900 for some reason. But Tim Roth plays 1900, and everyone else in it is actors I do not. Oh, Bill Nunn's in it too.
As a baby? Or
No,
like
this is
later?
1998. This is 1988. Same year as Titanic, I believe. Isn't Titanic 98?
Yeah, but when does the
Tim Rothfull's
1900
acting role.
take place?
1900. He's born in 1900. That's why they name him 1900. So that's why I thought when it said years later, the ship might be destroyed. I was like, is the ship Titanic? Is the ship like, was he born on Titanic while they were building it and he just hung out for 12 years?
The good years.
Oh, and he's
of
a
the
piano
Titanic.
player.
No one talks about the good years of the Titanic. Everyone wants to focus on the iceberg, okay? We had
The
some
iceberg.
good times. No one talks about the conga line a week before the iceberg hit, but that was a moment for sure.
All right, you ready for the last round?
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
Your final 5 films are Justice League, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man 2, Thor Ragnarok, Suicide Squad.
I'm going to send a very safe guess, Avengers.
I'm gonna guess Ant-Man 3.
But Spider-Man
No Way
can't
Home.
be Spider-Man. Yeah, I was gonna say No Way Home, but
Wait, it can't feature... So if I say Avengers, that can't be right, though, because there are characters in Avengers that are featured in those titles that you say?
You'd be correct if you'd like to rescind your guess because
I
Thor
would
is
like
in
to rescind
Avengers, so
my
it
guess.
can't be Avengers.
Can you relist the 5, then?
Yes. Justice League, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man 2, Thor Ragnarok, Suicide Squad. Mark, you're still guessed for Ant-Man
Black
3,
Panther,
right?
Wakanda
Yeah.
Forever.
All right, your guess is Wakanda Forever. Okay.
Every week we guess Wakanda Forever.
I mean, I did say I intend to rewatch it at some point. So
Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. No?
All right.
Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange, first one.
okay.
Doesn't have
So
many
Mark, Ant-Man 3 is not in the top 25. Wakanda Forever is not in the top 25. And you said original Doctor Strange?
original, yeah.
Also not in the top 25. Now you get the year. 2015.
Wow, I really thought I had it in Ant-Man 3 because I thought you sent me that picture of MODOK, unless I just am seeing that around.
2015. This is.
I mean, it's very possible I've seen Ant-Man 3. It's just that I have seen Ant-Man 3. It's not even a joke. I have seen Ant-Man 3. It's just not this movie. It's
Unfortunate.
It is unfortunate I saw Ant-Man 3. Side note. wasn't a fan.
X-Men Apocalypse.
I'm gonna guess Days of Future Past.
Oh man, what's the? No, I just really want to bring up Black Widow.
Black Widow?
Yeah, I can't remember
Alright.
any of the movies then in 2015 that weren't Spider-Man.
So, X-Men Apocalypse, not in the top 25.
Okay.
X-Men Days of Future Past, not in the top 25. And Black Widow, not in the top 25. So next, your hint is 5 additional movies, which basically will give you 5, potential franchises to rule out. So,
Okay.
and then I'll do a recap for the listeners at home after I
Of the
say the
10,
5
yeah.
additional. So, 5 additional movies are Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man, Venom, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Shazam. So the 10 films are Justice League, Guardians of the Galaxy, Spider-Man 2, Thor Ragnarok, Suicide Squad, Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man, Venom, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Shazam.
I'll guess the third Batman movie. That's not
Dark
even
Knight
correct
Rises,
because
you
of
mean?
Justice League. Yeah, well, I'll guess Dark Knight Rises.
Okay.
But, not the parts with Batman in them.
Okay, just the Bane solo
I
that
don't
you've
know,
always
man.
wanted.
It's incredible that you started with Justice League. It makes it so difficult.
And Justice League rules out so much of the DC universe. Because you can't say the Suicide Squad movies because Batman appears and Joker appears and
Ooh, actually, I'm going to lock in the Fantastic Four movie where the director complained about it.
That's a good one.
Oh, Josh Trank's... Okay, the 2015 one. Got it.
I'm
Okay.
locking in
Brilliant.
Deadpool.
Deadpool, okay. And then, Thomas, do you have something to lock in?
Gotta be Marvel's
Jump on the Deadpool train.
Deadpool 2 from the same year as Deadpool 1.
Alright, so... Fantastic Four flopped one is not in the top 25. Deadpool is not in the top 25. And Deadpool 2 is not in the top
I
25.
felt
Which
good about
means you guys will get the first billed actor, which is going to make one of you feel probably pretty dumb. Because the first billed actor in this movie is Paul Rudd.
Oh my.
Ah, man. All right. Well, the first Ant-Man. I didn't know that it was
Yeah.
so close on the heels
Yeah.
of Avengers.
See, he said Ant-Man 3, and I immediately ruled out the other Ant-Man movies. Like, that's...
Well, wait. You guys don't know which Ant-Man it is. It could be Ant-Man 1 or Ant-Man 2. I need your guesses locked in.
Oh, Ant-Man 1, I'm locked.
2.
Yeah, I'm also on that. Like, how many Ant-Man have there been?
There's been 3 Ant-Man.
But yeah, it's one
I'm
for
firm that it's
2015.
1.
Thomas, are you down for 1 too?
2 would have come out in like 2016.
Or 2018, like, somewhere. But, like, yeah.
But yeah, I'll stick to my guns on that movie because I actually did see that movie in theaters, so I might as well give it a shout. 2.
You are all right. It is Ant-Man 1. Ant-Man 1 came out the same year as Avengers: Age of Ultron, because the post-credit scene sets up Civil War.
I was going to say
and
Ultron, but...
interesting thing about Ant-Man 2 is that Ant-Man 2 came out after Infinity War, as if anyone wanted to see it. Well, actually, I think, having now seen all 3 Ant-Man movies, I think the second one is the only one I actually like. So
Yeah, they did choose a rough time to release it, though, for sure.
yeah,
I didn't care at that point. I'm gonna be honest, Infinity War dominates Endgame in terms of quality, plot, and everything for me.
disagree.
For me.
I have hot takes
Fight.
on them.
Ooh.
Okay, well, I think, okay. You know, this is actually really cool that we can talk about this, because my Marvel podcast never actually got to Infinity War and Endgame. Like, we
Right.
just never got around to it, doing episodes on them. Because we assumed it was going to be going on forever, and obviously those movies would always be there, and then we just ended our podcast before we got around to it. I think Infinity War and Endgame both do a lot of interesting ideas to handle the fact that, like, we're making an Avengers movie that has about 25 different heroes that we want to all give adequate screen time to. And I think they handle them both very differently. Infinity War does the idea that it's basically 3 movies smashed together, and nothing really... my issue of Infinity War, and this is what I'll always say, even though I should rewatch it because I haven't rewatched it since WandaVision came out, but the entire Earth stuff is dependent on you caring about Wanda and Vision. And at that time, their characters had not been developed to the point where I would give a shit about that. So the entire time they're like, Vision, you gotta give up this, you gotta kill Vision. I'm like, okay, so just kill him. Like, I have no reason to be connected to this character because we've spent no time with him. But they're like, no, we can't sacrifice the robot. And it's like, that entire part of the story does not work for me. And that's a third of the entire film. Whereas Endgame goes for this more of an interesting structure where it's basically 3 mini-movies taped together. And I like all 3 of them to different degrees. But, like, I think it just works better as a whole because I can sit down and just watch it. Whereas Infinity War, I'm forced to cut back to the stuff that I don't like because you can't just skip over the Earth stuff. Endgame, it's like, hey, if you don't want to watch the time travel stuff right now, well, you can just turn it off right here, or you just want to watch the end. You know, like, it has very clear act breaks. The
Okay.
third one,
Sure.
Endgame. So that's why I like Endgame more.
See, and you know, it's funny. We have differing views, but the same issues with disliking this part of the movie that, in our opinion, takes too much of the movie up. For me, I didn't come to see a time travel movie, and so much of Endgame is time travel, and also much of Endgame is grieving over and rehearing about things I've heard about for 18 movies, and so a lot of it just felt
stuff people were talking about for the entire time, like the movie's release schedule was unfolding.
Exactly. So it just felt like I was hearing all the same things I had heard over and over again. So like the first part of the movie, I'm just waiting to get to what I know is going to be the big release, which is the fight, and it was great, but it just wasn't it for me. I really loved Infinity because as someone who is a comic book nerd, I cared about Wanda and Vision, but no, I just thought the pacing of it to me, it felt it was a full, like, everything came together in the movie, and Infinity War, or in Endgame, did feel like, to me, 3 different movies, like you said. But in Infinity War, it did feel like a lot, but it did feel to me like it was all in the same, if that makes much sense. I just wasn't able to keep up with Endgame and stay into it as much as Infinity War because the action was paced throughout the movie rather than a big build up to it all at the end.
All right, is anyone here, and I'm not going to spoil Ant-Man 3, okay? But can I talk about Ant-Man 3 very briefly in relation to Endgame?
I've fallen out of the MCU so much, you can talk about everything. There's too much to keep up with for me at this point.
I'm not going to spoil Ant-Man 3 because listeners, but you're okay?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Thomas?
Yeah,
Does MODOK die?
Yeah, he does.
For the
but
discourse.
MODOK's great. MODOK's the best part of the movie.
I imagine. I love MODOK. I'm so happy with the screen.
Well, first off, my hot take on Ant-Man as a sub-franchise is I actually think the new one is better than the first one. I really don't like the first Ant-Man movie at all. It bores me. But the one part of the first Ant-Man movie, this was not what I was going to talk about, but I will talk about because you brought up MODOK. The one part of the first Ant-Man movie I love that no one, I think Corey Stoll as the bad guy in the first Ant-Man movie is fantastic. He is so hammy in the first Ant-Man that it's I get excited whenever he's on screen because he's like, it'd be a lot easier to shoot you if you were bigger. That's I love when comic book villains just go full ham. I think of Zod and Man of Steel where he's like, where'd you train, on a farm? I need more villains like that in my comic book movies.
Honestly, what I love it when comic book movies are so straight up like the comics. And that's why I think there's such a huge love for the movie Sin City. Because there's a lot of it's such a weird cult following of people who enjoy that movie because it's the lines that the overarching the dialogue that you hear the main actors saying, it's what would be happening in a comic book as everything's moving and pacing, and there's classic comic book action sequences. It just that I enjoy watching that movie because I was that is a comic book in a movie format,
I am not big on Sin City, but I will say similarly to Sin City in aesthetic. Well, not aesthetic, because obviously Sin City is black and white. But Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and and
I'm not saying I love Sin City. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was, which was true.
Then animation-wise, of course, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's both these things take a lot of we're trying to actually put the comic on screen.
Yeah.
But to talk about Ant-Man 3,
big Ang Lee's the Hulk fans up in here.
I've been meaning to watch it for literally 6 months, and I just have not gotten around to being this is the movie I'm watching today. I tried in March, or not March, in November. It's March. It's February now. I tried in October to finally watch it, and then I just started falling asleep when because I watched it on Hulu, so the ad break came up, and I just started falling asleep, and I was not right now. I don't want to be struggling to stay awake during this because I'm tired.
Which movie is this?
Ang Lee's Hulk with Eric Bana from 2003.
Oh,
it has it moves. From what I saw, I know what you're talking about though, Mark, because I saw the first 10 minutes, and it will be it will pan, and it will be a comic book split screen as it moves around the space of editing. The thing that shocks me the most about Ant-Man 3 is it's supposed to set up the new big bad of the Marvel movies, the new Thanos, Kang.
Kang, yeah, and it was.
I was on board with it with Loki when I had my Marvel podcast, but now that I watch Ant-Man 3, I'm this seems like a really bad place to put all your eggs in. Because it's he wants to destroy all the multiverse, so many different, he's killed so many universes out there. I'm okay, but the way multiverse rules are set up in your world, in pretty much anything that uses multiverse theory, which I know is a bunch of bullshit anyway, but it's in any universe where Kang destroyed it, there is another universe where he lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the whole idea of what multiverses are, is that any split decision you make can make a new universe. So the idea of oh, he killed it is that means nothing to me. But moreover, the bigger issue, and this is the spoiler of the movie, I guess, is that he dies at the end of the movie, this version of Kang. So it's okay, so if Ant-Man can beat him on his own, how am I supposed to take him seriously as a threat?
What I think they should do, and what would be so cool, and they've done with a little, I think they did it with a phone app. You know Contest of Champions phone app? Marvel Contest of Champions?
Oh yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't played it, but I know what you're talking about.
I don't know why they don't do a whole character arc type thing with that, where they have because that's a whole new style of Marvel that they could do, instead of the basic, here's the heroes, they have to fight the villain to save the planet. They could do, here's the heroes that have been kidnapped to fight each other for intergalactic amusement, like Planet Hulks.
I think that's what they're building to. I think that's what isn't that what Secret Wars is?
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not a comic
I don't know
reader.
if they're gonna fully go into it. Because they do not like to get away from the basic hero format of saving a group of people, which is what a hero has to do, which isn't what makes comic books good all the time. Because that's what all of the movies, in every single one of the movies, there has been a person or people to save, in a manner of speaking. There's been, and it's never just been about the hero's survival and need to get through something. It's always about, I gotta make it through this for this character. I have to do it for these people instead of, I have to do this so I don't die. That's what I want to see with a superhero. I want to see something about survival, which is not seen often. Which I think when you pit superheroes against each other, it can do that. Because I feel like every superhero movie nowadays is just, how are they going to save people?
Y'all, we got to talk about some surfing penguins.
Oh, you're right.
Sorry.
We got way into Marvel.
Mark's like, your Marvel podcast is canceled, Danny. Stop it.
I don't want to cancel it. You got to work that out on your own. I'm just like, the clock is ticking. We got to talk about surfing penguins.
All right, but first, we have to ask our guests questions about Pixar very briefly.
What's your relationship to surfing penguins?
Mark, they were supposed to ask about Pixar, not about penguins.
Okay.
This is not a pen cast.
So what's y'all's relationship to Pixar?
It's pretty good. I mean, it was like, we had so many movies in our film cabinet whenever we were kids that I didn't realize the fact that it was like this legendary property. And then since then, I had this natural tendency to kind of want to go away from what was popular, and I had like a shaky relationship with Disney Pixar until high school when we got into like musical theater, and I was like, well, what's the best way to just incorporate music into your life is like deep dive into Disney. And that's when I got interested in it. It was like whenever I got a greater appreciation for stories, and I was like, well, I want to go to college to become a storyteller. So I
Do you
definitely
remember
think,
what the first...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
The first one? That's... It's too far back. Because like I said, I didn't realize that it was a special thing, so I don't have like that one special memory like some people might have.
I mean, other people have had this experience of going to see something for the first time in the theater, but I think you and me just kind of had them around all the time.
Yeah. I used to be afraid of going to the movie theater. Like, it was too, like, big or too scary. So even if it was a movie like, oh man, what's the one with all the birds? Valiant.
Birds. Oh.
Valiant.
Like,
There's a deep cut.
Movie like Valiant would be too intense for me to see in theaters.
I'm sorry. Can we take a second to appreciate what's that movie with the birds? Oh, the birds? No, Valiant.
I was like, the
Wow.
Alfred.
I think
Alfred
about that movie a lot,
Hitchcock.
actually.
I have seen The Birds. That was one of my favorite Pixar movies, The Birds.
Oh, I was thinking the Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Yeah.
There's-
Him and his
No,
Pixar.
Pixar.
collaboration.
His Pixar collaboration. yes.
Hitchcock x Pixar.
Yeah, I liked Nemo, so that's my long drawn out answer. But no,
Well, but yeah,
Finding Nemo
talk about
musical?
like your beginnings with Pixar.
mine was 100% Finding Nemo, 100%. I just love that movie since I was a little kid and it came out, but you know, it's just so hard to like really truly know the beginning, because when I was a kid I loved Shrek, I loved Finding Nemo, I loved Disney, I loved it all, you know? It's hard to know what was first. But I feel like Finding Nemo definitely shaped what I appreciate about Pixar. Like how I came to love the animation and the beauty of it and the vast, amazing ocean that they create. That is, I scuba dived last year recently, and I didn't even realize how well of a job that they do at recreating like real ocean life and how a reef would look in an animated kids movie. And I also truly love going back to watch these movies as an adult, because you get to appreciate all of the humor that was put in there for the adults that the kids don't understand. That really makes you appreciate how Pixar movies, I don't know if they do it nearly as much nowadays, but they used to be made not just for kids.
But Thomas, do you have adult Pixar memories?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't have like an old classic that I go back to, but my new favorite is definitely Coco. That's like where I was like, this is it.
It's a popular one.
Also,
and it
I
should
really
be.
like Dia de los Muertos, so everything about Coco, it just hits all the right. Like, I want that dog.
I love the dog.
I want to go to that place. I want to die and have that be what happens. Like, that'd be cool. Instead of just if there's gonna be the conversation about what happens after you die, or you get to watch Coco and that's it. Just want to watch Coco.
I was not expecting this answer to go to. So
That's
would
why
I.
I like
So
that,
would
but
I.
I like that, but replace Coco with Frasier. And
Or-
then I'm
yeah.
eternity.
Or instead of like going and being in that undead world, just watching the content over and over and over again for eternity.
Oh, if that's the underworld, you just get to sit back, relax, and guilt-free watch all of all the stuff you just were wanting to
You
watch
get for
forever.
your backlog. Oh
Right,
my
like,
gosh, that'd be so great.
That sounds outrageously nice. That sounds better than what heaven could be, because wow, I have so many shows that I want to watch just so people can say, "Did you watch this?" And I'd be like, "Yes, I did." Okay, because
Oh my
everyone's
gosh,
got a show.
I don't know, because I just had an image of me in the afterlife. So, someone finally walking up to me like, "So did you finally watch Sopranos?" I'd be like, I have not.
Yeah, just,
You'd get backlogged in the afterlife too. There's so much stuff coming out.
I'm that guy. Like on my couch, I get up from watching Coco, and I come over to you, and I'm like, "You still haven't watched Sopranos? What's wrong with you?"
Have you not seen Sopranos?
I
just watched Sopranos. You should watch The Sopranos.
Did you just watch it too?
Yeah. Oh, did you just watch it?
Me and Mom just watched The Sopranos.
Wow, that's crazy, because I'm
Yeah.
not sure that I mentioned that to y'all, but I also just finished watching The
I
Sopranos.
got
have not watched The
the
Sopranos.
I like it when Cody Maverick is a gang boss. But just to not get too far away from the surf sub. Like, it's still in there somewhere, but
Seamless transition.
yeah, watch Sopranos.
I'll be honest. The first thing I'll watch and I die, and then I get the backlog in front of me will probably be The Wire, because that's the one that people are always like, "When are you gonna watch The Wire?" And I'm like, I actually do want to watch The Wire. Like,
I'm
Mark's like,
gonna
"The
do
Wires."
I'm gonna do One Piece.
Oh yeah, baby.
And then we have another question for you guys.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well, actually, wait. First off, Mason, before we ask this question, do you have an adult favorite for Pixar movies? Because I know Thomas said Coco. Do you have one?
Oh, Up. Going back to watch, it's Up. I can watch that movie and be happy every time. Gosh, Pixar just kept putting out good ones too. They could have stopped after Toy Story 3 though.
No, because then we lose the best Cars movie.
I would have been fine without Toy Story 4. Is all I'm saying. I don't.
Well, you're
You
getting
know-
a fifth one.
Did you guys talk about Soul yet on this show?
Oh, we only talk about stuff in passing. We're going in order, so we've
haven't
talked.
seen
Soul
Soul.
comes up occasionally.
You gotta see Soul.
I
That's
know.
a heater.
Johnny loves talking about Soul. Our friend
Oh,
Johnny.
Johnny's a music man, so anything
Oh.
musical, anything with a note in it, he's like, "Oh, well, let me
Also-
let me tell you about that."
Also, I feel like movies like Finding Dory and Monsters University, while they obviously, I don't think they ever could have lived up to the hype of the first movies. I think they were really great considering how long it took for them to make another one, and all
Yeah.
of the aspects that are going to go into the delay of making a movie that much later and keeping it good.
I will say this about Soul. First thing is, with Soul, I think it's interesting because I think you said earlier you don't know how Pixar movies currently tackle adult jokes or adult topics, and the recurring thing we say about Soul on this show is that we do not understand how kids can get anything out of it. It is a
That's
movie that
real.
is
That's
it's a
so
movie
real.
that's primarily there is a cat that apparently sometimes gets in the slapstick, but that is it for children. There is nothing else in that movie that children can get out of.
I think we as adults have a different take as to what kids like than kids do. Because when I was a kid, I mean, I guarantee you sit half the kids down and say, "You're going to watch a dramatic movie with your mother. This should be fun, right?" I was 8 years old, and Sophie's Choice, my mom, I asked her, I was like, "What's Sophie's Choice?" And she let me watch it, and I enjoyed that movie. As an 8-year-old child, I was torn up, I cried, but I just don't think we as adults can comprehend that kids like some stuff that we wouldn't expect at all. And I think that plays into movies as well.
Yeah.
You say that, but and I think what you're saying is valid, but you need to remember that me and Thomas are both coming at this from the perspective that we work with these children.
That's true.
Ergo,
I was actually about to give an example from watching kids watch Ratatouille. They were totally silent the whole movie, relatively silent for kids in a cafeteria just sitting around watching a movie. But like broke into uproarious laughter for just the moment whenever he dumps the wine on his head, when him and Remy are like trying to get their skills down and they're in his apartment, they're like making spaghetti and he just keeps like messing it up. When he dumps the wine on his head and douses Remy, room went insane. Like an hour into this movie of like no feedback. Kids at the beginning, like some of them are like, is this too violent? There's guns. And I'm like, that's a good point.
In Ratatouille?
That's a good point.
Yeah, there's a gun in Ratatouille.
It starts with a gun.
Yeah, like right at the beginning, she pulls out the gun.
She does pull out a shotgun.
But we also watched Thor Ragnarok with those kids, and Thor, like, rips...
I would not be allowed to show that.
Loses an eye.
And rips demons in half, and I'm
he loses an eye in that movie.
What I was going to say also with kids is that at work this week, one of my kids told me that over the past week, in second grader, she went to go see Missing, the new like screen life horror. Like, you know, it's like one of those movies where it's like everything's happening on a computer screen. And I was like, huh, why'd you see that? I literally said to this kid, I'm like, why'd you see that and not like Puss in Boots? And then I found out eventually it was because her sister wanted to see Ant-Man with like a friend. So her mom had to take her to a different movie because... You know, when you're hanging out with a friend, you don't want to be... You don't want your mom in the same theater and your little sister in the same theater. And Missing was the only time that worked. And I was like, wow. Like, kind of impressed your mom didn't just take you out to, like, ice cream or something for an hour and a half. Like...
When the John Cho Missing?
No. Well, yes, it's a sequel to Searching.
See, when you said Missing...
John Cho is in Searching. Missing is like a new... It's set in the world of Searching, but has no returning characters. That's all.
When you said Missing, my mind went to, like... Maybe they got sick of saying Taken 4 and Taken 5, and they came up with a really lazy sequel name for Liam Neeson's
Missing
movies.
is just like about this girl who... It's about this teenage girl who mom goes missing in Colombia. But it's all told for, like, her computer screen. Okay. So it's like a thriller.
It's just, like, I can just imagine that, though, like, an action movie with Liam Neeson. His daughter's not taken. She's just missing, so there's no plot. He's just looking for his daughter.
My daughter's missing.
I
thought Missing was good. I recommend it as someone who likes those types of movies where it's like, oh, it's a cool gimmick. It's all on a computer screen.
But, yeah.
And now we get to take a look at some surfing penguins. What is? When did this come out? What's its deal? Give us some stats.
First off, this is a detour!
Whoa!
I like that. I presume you two both don't know what I'm talking about when I say it's a detour. So.
I'm riding.
A detour means this is a film that's not made by Pixar, but we're covering it because Ash Brannon co-directed Toy Story 2, and then he went on to direct two other films that are nowhere near as well known as Toy Story 2. First of which being Surf's Up, a major ocean picture, which now that I see that's on the poster, I want to solely refer to it as Surf's Up, a major ocean picture. I'd never call it just Surf's Up for the purpose of this podcast. Surf's Up came out in 2007 on June 8th. I have no idea what it was expected to the box office, but I would say looking at its box office, this is kind of a bomb. It made less than $100 million, which is not good for a CGI animated movie. It would not qualify for the Letterboxd Game of Guess. I think part of the reason it bombed, I'd have to imagine, would be that it opened a couple weeks after Shrek 3 and a couple weeks before Ratatouille. Ergo, the family audience was very satisfied at this point in time.
It should have opened before Shrek 3, considering it was a better movie than Shrek 3.
It definitely should be... I don't know why it's a summer... I mean, I get it because it's surfing... But, like, this feels like an April movie to me. You know, like, the movie that comes out beginning of April, tides over the kids a bit while they're waiting for the the summer movies to come out. It definitely isn't let's put this out, like, in the middle of summer. It's going to be huge. That was a really good impression of the tank guy, I feel like. I'm giving myself credit for that.
Bader?
I love David Bader.
Surf.
I just love referring to actors by, like, niche movies that they're in. You're like, oh, you're talking about, Shia LaBeouf from Surf's Up and Ocean Motion Pictures.
Jason L from Surf's Up.
Or Kelsey Grammer from Atlantis.
Well, I think the actual funny thing to be like, oh, yeah, James Wood, controversial actor, but he's a really great voice actor for Surf's Up. Like, saying that instead of Hercules is would legitimately be hilarious to me. But okay, Surf's Up comes out in 2007, June, does not do hot at the box office, but it does kind of become this movie that I think, much like any anime movie that comes out, when you're a child, like there are people who will be like, yeah, this is great, and maybe you guys are. I don't know. We're not getting into that yet, but it gets nominated for an Oscar. Obviously, loses to Ratatouille. Gets a direct-to-video sequel 10 years later. So, ergo, I gotta assume it did well, like, you know, on DVD. But I think the interesting thing here more is that it is the second film released by Sony Pictures Animation after, of course, Open Season. And I think what's interesting about Open Season and Surf's Up is that here's some hot takes on Sony Pictures Animation, which I don't think is something that people really have hot takes on. I think most people forget both Surf's Up, like animation people forget Surf's Up and Open Season exist, because Cloudy with a Chance Meatballs is so much more of a like artistic statement of a movie, I feel like. Maybe this is just me talking as someone who did not really grow up as Open Season or Surf's Up. But
I think that's exactly it, but go on.
I think with me or with Mark?
Oh, with both of you. I think Cloudy is super gorgeous looking, but I think Open Season is a much better movie as someone who grew up watching both of them. I adored Open Season for the characters, for the setup, for everything about it, and Cloudy was great, but I was just like, it's more purdy than great to me.
I want to clarify something with what I mean, which is, one, I think Cloudy is a better movie. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is more Cloudy sets like the house style of Sony, because Cloudy is followed up by Hotel Transylvania, like the Smurfs, Emoji. You know what I mean? Like these movies all kind of look like Cloudy with a Chance Meatballs do, like in how the characters are more cartoony. Whereas I think Surf's Up and Open Season are more of a typical like this is a CGI animated movie. That's all I meant by that. It's like I think Cloudy sets the house style.
I can see what you mean by that, because the style is clearly different in Cloudy. It's clearly a little bit more like bubble text than the other.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's where Sony's style generally stays. Even with Spider-Verse, right? I think the character models in Spider-Verse clearly follow like the Cloudy setup.
I think the other bit of like historical thing is like, you know, why are we all here? And I wanted y'all to be on because when we were younger, we had a copy of Surf's Up in the house.
Yes.
So we had the DVD, so we can actually review the DVD. I don't know why.
I checked out the DVD from the library. Oh my gosh! Whoa! I need to watch the ChubbChubbs.
The ChubbChubbs Save Christmas?
Not this DVD. This DVD is just the ChubbChubbs.
Oh my gosh! You just unlocked a dark memory. Oh my gosh! The ChubbChubbs.
It just says the ChubbChubbs.
The ChubbChubbs.
I'm gonna lose my.
I should have watched. Like I literally, because when I check out DVDs from the library that have shorts on it, I generally keep them around so I can just watch the short, because that's like, well, I have it on me. So I am going to. I do fully intend to watch the ChubbChubbs. I just have not done it yet.
Why can't we be friends, bro? Oh my gosh! Just looking at these old animated clips, this is so much nostalgia all at once.
Well, I thought this episode might be about the ChubbChubbs, but if you haven't watched the ChubbChubbs, no worries.
I'm sure I watched the ChubbChubbs way back, like in 2007. You know what I mean? I'm sure I've seen this. But I cannot talk about it right now because I've not rewatched the ChubbChubbs. I'm sorry.
Well, that's fine. I just think that part of the viewing experience of watching Surf's Up, because I have no memory of seeing this in theaters, and I think, you know, we had the DVD, so we were watching that and the ChubbChubbs, and you'd like go back and forth or whatever. I do remember that penguins, and specifically the rockhopper penguin, which is the kind of penguin that Cody is, was my favorite animal, and I think that's why we owned this movie. I'm not sure that I knew about it before then.
Yeah, we were definitely we gravitate toward the birds, definitely toward the penguins.
I don't know much about birds. I just remember that one of my friends went to the St. Louis Zoo one time and shoved a penguin under his shirt. That happened.
Cool.
He almost got away with it too. That's all I got. That's my story.
For the meddling kids.
That's my story about penguins.
Well, I actually do think before I don't want to be like, I think this is part of the historical background. Is penguins, is that Surf's Up kind of is the end of the penguin movement in cinema. March of the Penguins comes out in 2005, which is, I believe,
that's way later than I thought.
The second biggest documentary ever in the U.S. after, of course, Fahrenheit 9/11. But March of the Penguins comes out in 2005. Obviously, does really well for a documentary. Everyone talks about everyone sees March of the Penguins. Next year, Happy Feet comes out, wins the Oscar, beats Cars. So Surf's Up is coming out as kind of this movie where it's like another penguin movie after Happy Feet. And it's also clearly I think I would have to actually look. I haven't really looked into the production of this movie, but either it's an insanely happy coincidence they decided to make a mockumentary about penguins after the biggest documentary in memory, besides the political documentary, is about penguins, or it is purposely riffing off of March of the Penguins. But also, I'm like, ooh, the lead. I feel like I assumed March of the Penguins also earlier because animation takes so long to do that it's like, how is this made so quickly after March of the Penguins?
Well, wasn't this also Madagascar time? Like, I always thought that it came
Madagascar
after Madagascar.
Madagascar is also 05. So, and Madagascar is, you're correct, Madagascar also cashes in on that penguin. I think, is Madagascar pre-March of the Penguins? But Madagascar is also kind of its own thing. It is not dependent on the penguins to be big. March of the Penguins and Madagascar come out around the same time. They're both summer 05.
And now I have this conspiracy theory that, like the MCU was doing movies and then pivoted to television. The Penguin Cinematic Universe was doing all these movies and then pivoted to television with the Penguins Nickelodeon show.
And you know what also
with
the Penguins is that I remember in 2019, back when I first had A-List, I did try to see absolutely everything with my AMC A-List. Now I don't do that because it's like I don't need to sit through everything. And Avengers Endgame came out in April 2019, big Disney release, but 2 weeks before Avengers Endgame was a little other Disney movie titled Penguins, which was one of their nature documentaries. And it's just really interesting also just to see like the fact that happened. I get it was so long after March of the Penguins, but just the whole idea of like, yeah, let's try to do March of the Penguins again. It's just kind of like, what? Like, you're never going to be able to do March of the Penguins again. It was March of the Penguins.
First or second year of college, and on my dorm floor, people would just get together in one of the dorm rooms, as you do, and one of the nights they were watching freaking Surf's Up. And I was like, you guys are amazing. And that was about the best thing that ever happened to me on that floor, is that we watched Surf's Up, because I was just so nostalgic for that movie. But the second one, I'm never, some things like you revisit after coming back to for a long time and you're disappointed. But Surf's Up, nothing about it to me is disappointing. Like, it can miss the mark and be better, but it's just it pulls so many trump cards and has so many tropes going to like the maximum that I cannot help but enjoy the film.
That was my thought about rewatching it, is I was like, I don't want to come in here and be super negative because I have very positive memories of watching the film. It's a very solid movie. And I had a good time, and I would love to, like, tear it apart and all that sort of thing. But, like, I do, it just works.
They played all the stereotypes, and it just fits in the characters, and it doesn't seem like it's overdone. Like, Chicken Joe is so over the top, clearly a stoner surfer dude, but it doesn't seem overdone, and Tank is obviously the big macho guy. It's just, it all seems like they're supposed to be like that.
And it's like an island setting, but I don't feel like it's ever handled, like, misappropriately, because I know that can, like, bring down
I disagree about that, but...
Where do you think it's, like, egregious? Because that's interesting.
Well, now we get into this thing about, like, what kind of tropes do we accept. I was shocked rewatching this film because I forgot about the native penguins, and I was like, all right, y'all.
I will give
that's the thing. It's like,
I just don't think this can, like, slide.
I will say this about them, which is one, I agree with the very, like, iffiness of them, but I do think the best executed joke in this entire movie is them the way the taste like chicken joke is constructed throughout the film, that the eventual reveal of those native penguins tasting the squid and going, it tastes like chicken, so they don't need to kill Chicken Joe, is brilliant. I think that is the best, like, the way that it's built throughout the entire film. I was like, okay, that's really good. I like that. It's one of those things where I was saying this off mic. I don't know if Mark's going to keep that in the episode or not, but, like, we were saying that the woman character in this is very underwritten, and it's like, well, it's a movie from our childhood, so there's probably something wrong with it, and I think the native tribe and the woman character are both really rough in this.
I think it's interesting how in the movie there's, like, a total of, like, 7 different settings, maybe, which is, like, a small amount, because I mean,
save that money.
Yeah, well, yeah, they had to animate less, but there's Antarctica, Z's shed, the 2 different beaches, and then like when they go through the woods.
This cost $100 million. This was a bomb. Sorry, go on.
It's like crazy to me how they have like 6-7 settings that they recycle and reuse and put in these scenes. It's like 2 beaches, woods, Z's house, Antarctica.
To be clear, though, also the movie without credits, I believe is... Because I checked. I believe it's 77 minutes without credits. So this is like, you know, one of those things where it's like, nice, we hit the mark. We hit exactly where we need to be. So, feature length. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I mean. Is like, they get to it. And I think the movie does definitely have... And they're good jokes, but it definitely has, like, filler jokes to hit that time, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Although I do love every single minute that Chicken Joe is on screen.
The timing of the Yum Yum joke does it for me, and that makes me want to like the Islander penguins, who are problematic, but... Yeah,
well, no, I still like that. I still think they're funny. Like, it's something where we, like, yeah, I think the stuff of it's like, oh, yeah, they made me a great hot tub. I think that's hilarious. Like, I think... I haven't really dropped my opinion on this movie because I'm a little tired of coming onto this show being negative towards something everyone else likes, but I did not like this. But I'm trying to be more positive than usual, even though Mark tells me being negative gets more engagement. But
I've got something good to say about Lonnie. To mix things up.
I loved the absolute best character in the movie for me was the urchin that had 3 seconds of screen time.
Oh yeah,
that was a good joke.
Give it up to the urchin.
He stepped on me. This guy was dancing on me. Fractured, broken. That was just
broken, fractured, broken.
It was just that was a really good bit. I think how they interviewed the urchin. It was so not expected either. That was just meant.
They just throw it in there, and the way they use their nifty, like, we're a crew recording this, like this. They're capitalizing on Office fame.
Well, that's what I was just looking up is that was The Office on the air? Yeah, The Office.
Yeah, it was.
The Office premiered 2 years prior. Okay, yeah. So
because to me, with the reason I brought up the tropes, it's like Penguins meets The Office meets Cody is like this hyper protagonist who cares about nobody else meets surfing is cool. Plus, when they have the part, like, the actual surfers speak up about the surfing, that's when I'm like, okay, this is a surfing movie. I'm totally here for it.
My thing with the movie, and this is an issue I had, it's actually funny, because the thing I'm about to say, it's in a way an asset of the film. I have a lot of issues with sports documentaries in general, where I sometimes am just like, what is the point to this? Why do I care? And I think... that, as I said, I think this movie is somewhat struggling to hit that, like, 75-minute runtime so they can put it out in theaters. And a lot of it is just, like, vamping or, like, repetitive to me. But I do think I admire this film, even though I don't like it, because I think it is very ambitious in 2007 to release a major animated movie that's like, we are parroting documentaries. And we are going to try to mostly stick with that, even though obviously there are some shots that like a documentary crew can never get. We're still going to keep that in the cinematic language of, oh, the camera's like zooming in everywhere, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think that's very admirable of this movie. Even if the movie itself, I'm just kind of like, it's got good jokes occasionally, but I do, like Cody, everyone in this movie is an archetype, which is fine, I guess, if you grew up with it. But I never said that I think this is an important thing for me to say with me being negative to the movie, is my experience with this movie is when I was growing up, my local movie theater did this thing. I've mentioned this on the show before, but you guys obviously don't know because you haven't been on before. My local movie theater did this thing where they would show like the previous season's movies for free, both an intermission they added in so parents could go out and buy popcorn for their kids, right? So the movie theater made all their money on their popcorn because obviously kids are going to be like, get me popcorn during the intermission, Mom. So I did not see Surf's Up in its original run because Surf's Up, as I've already said, came out in between Shrek 3 and Ratatouille, which are the 2 that my family went to see that summer. So I saw Surf's Up once at the free movies. Thought it was fine. I was 12 at the time, so I was like, yeah, that was fun. That was cute. I probably didn't say it was cute because I was a 12-year-old boy, but you know what I mean. I was like, yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that. I'm glad we went out for free. but then I have no actual like cultural memories with it, if that makes sense. I have no fondness for Surf's Up, but I have no residual hatred for Surf's Up either. It just was a film that happened when I was a kid that I saw once.
Do you remember where the intermission was? See,
I was watching this trying to nail that. I think it had to be right after, like, I think it was when I wouldn't be able to exactly nail it, because as I said, this movie I think the second act of this movie has no plot. I didn't say that yet, but I do. And that in a way is an asset of the film, because that's kind of like what sports documentaries are. Like, you have the beginning where you set up your character, and you have the ending competition. And in the middle is just like, let's figure out what to do. I feel like they came back from intermission with the scene where Lonnie and Cody go on their sledding thing with the goose poop. I think that was the first thing back from intermission. So whatever scene is before that where they leave Z at the beach. Okay. I have to assume that's my guess. But I also, you're going off 12, like, that was in 2000, this was probably like an October 2007 free movie. Because that's how long, it came out in June 07, so. And I was 12, so who knows how well I'm remembering something from 15 years ago. So, but that would be my guess. Sorry to come in with the negativity. I'm trying to be nicer, even though I do feel like I need to put my cards on the table.
Reggie does any horrible things to people in, like, the extended universe of the show. Like, if he ruins the island in some meaningful way. Just to make, like, the world
Why do you have, like, knowledge about Surf's Up?
I didn't even know there was an extended universe. That's why I'm like, whoa,
like
what?
2, so there's, like, obviously more. But
the sequel is so like I think one thing we haven't really said about the sequel, even though we're not even talking around it, but the sequel it's a sequel, but it exists to market WWE. That is what Surf's Up 2 is. It is a WWE advertisement.
I enjoy the social commentary though about the entertainment world when it comes to Reggie. Like, it's just. And it's, like, so obvious and put right out there, but as a child, you're not noticing that. But as an adult, it's like, oh, yeah, this dude is obviously, he doesn't care about anyone, he doesn't care about his assistant, he's just there to make money because he knows he can by doing these things. Like, I enjoyed the social commentary because it felt based in real-world issues.
You don't feel like, in real life, it's a little more subtle and insidious?
Oh, no, it is, but I just like how they didn't, like, sugarcoat it with Reggie, because it has to be obvious with a character like Reggie for it to play in a Pixar movie.
I want to talk about Reggie, but I want to first talk about that I opened up the Surf's Up 2 Wave Mania Wiki to see if Z was in it, right? Because I know obviously Jeff Bridges, they could not get Jeff Bridges for this direct-to-video sequel in 2017. So I'm like, okay, who'd they get to play Z? And I see he's not. But speaking of, like, topical things that are not, like, good, is that the end of this movie is that Vince McMahon invites Cody to join his team, but he refuses to abandon his friends and the island. So Vince McMahon, impressed by Cody, decides not to retire.
Vince McMahon.
And I'm like, ooh, topical. Vince McMahon chooses not to retire. And I think that was as someone who does not follow WWE, I know that happened recently. Like, he returned.
Well, I think Vince McMahon has, like, retired a few times. I'm not the biggest person on WWE lore, but that's kind of what he does because he's, like, the boss.
Oh, yeah. So, let me rephrase. Vince McMahon's last retirement, I know, was because he, like, got canceled / charged with crimes.
Yeah.
So him coming back this time was kind of like, what? But Reggie, I want to talk about Reggie because I made a joke about this earlier, but I think it is also worth mentioning. James Woods is a problematic person in real life. However, I do think he is probably one of the best celebrity voice actors to ever do it. I think his performance as Reggie is so entertaining.
I was just thinking to myself, like, why Reggie Belafonte is such a memorable character to me when he has nothing to do with Cody's plot at all. Like, he could be anybody else, but it's because he's Reggie and he has that voice and he has that personality that's like, it's Reggie, come on. Yeah. I remember the McDonald's toy. I remember I was hyped to get the Reggie toy. Like, come on.
I remember, weirdly enough, I do remember the McDonald's toys too for this. Although I don't think I put this one in my mouth.
Failing
Reggie didn't
grade.
have bite marks on it. It was not a good enough toy.
I was 12 when this movie came out. I was still eating my McDonald's toy. That was a problem. You know why I probably remember this was the McDonald's toy? Because my 12th birthday... Never mind. My 12th birthday party, we're going to talk about next week. My 6th birthday party was at McDonald's. I don't know why I remember these toys. Yeah, I had my birthday party at McDonald's.
Sounds awesome.
Deal with it. Yeah, it was. They had a cool
should have had
place.
this conversation at McDonald's.
We just all meet up. We all meet up at the McDonald's. We're like, I'm flying.
McDonald's in Ohio.
Have we ever told the story about when we were, Danny, you and I were drunk at that burger place, and we were sitting by the people who were like shooting porn?
No, you know, that's one of those.
Place?
That's one of the.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, we should talk about that because that was something I was going to bring up earlier when we were talking
Is
about
that
your
related
move.
to Surf's Up though? I just was like, oh, if we were in a burger place, we might run into other complications.
It might not be related to Surf's Up, but it is related to Thomas moving to LA.
Excellent.
The reason I say that is the number one thing I feel like tourists say for you to eat at in LA, in my experience, has always been you gotta try In-N-Out.
Yeah.
You got. And the last 2 times I've been to LA and I've had In-N-Out, I have been like, why did I come here? Like, why?
You ate at the wrong one because people don't tell you the right one to go to.
Somebody did ask me.
There's a one?
Today.
There's not a specific one, but there's many wrong ones. That's the key.
Yeah, I went to the one. I know the last time I went to the one that was like in a walking distance of like downtown Hollywood. So I think that one was probably not.
You went on the one on Sunset, didn't you? To the one on Sunset. Horrible.
Maybe.
Horrendous.
I don't remember roads,
The
but it
lettuce-
literally was like a block from like the Star Walk.
The burger assembly there was
Grauman's.
horrendous. Last time I went, I couldn't tell the lettuce from like the paper that was supposed to wrap the burger because it was all covered in grease and it was like soaked into the burger. It was horrible. Never
Okay, but
go
the time
back.
before that, because I've been there twice in the last 2 years. So the time before that, I went to one. I obviously can't tell you where this one was, but it was not downtown LA. It was by the friend I was staying with's place.
Okay.
So, but that one I think it might have been. I don't know. It was by where they shot Terminator 2, because that's the guy who was driving. This giving me like, this is where they shot Terminator 2, the truck scene. I was like, great, cool. So wherever they shot Terminator 2, that's where I went in and out. But Mark, now with that lead-in, we can tell the In-N-Out story, because who knows when In-N-Out will ever come up again. Because I do think
Well,
it's
I basically told the In-N-Out story. That's the only thing about it.
Do you think penguins do porn? Like, do you think
Yeah,
there are
sure.
penguins who shoot porn?
Those penguins?
Yeah, speaking of
Look
that,
at the-
sorry,
there's
Mason, we
voyeurs
were
doing
having
Look
a
at the penguins in that movie. Like,
we were having a conversation when you came back from the bathroom.
I feel like Zooey Deschanel in this movie is what people complain about her character in 500 Days of Summer being. Even though I think I haven't seen 500 Days of Summer since high school, so I can't really. That's a movie that I definitely should revisit before I like stand by my 5 out of 5 take that high school Danley gave it. But who knows if it's still that.
Did we talk at all about how, like, I know that sometimes it feels like they're vamping, but I just love dialogue that sounds
I
kind
love
of
banter.
improvised. Yeah.
I love banter. That's why I love Letterkenny.
Can I?
How about
I
the
love
joke at the
Letterkenny,
beginning
man alive,
where
but the
Mom
Letterkenny's, like,
throws
tightly
up the
written.
fish?
It is true. Letterkenny.
The mom throwing up the fish is good.
And they
Not great that
they
there's
just-
only 2 women in this movie, being the mom and the girlfriend, but we've already
Indeed.
addressed that point. But yes, the
Well,
mom
there's
throwing.
like those kid penguins.
Well, there's they show up to the island and there's like the hula dancer penguins.
Well, those kid penguins are two of them.
We're going really
They're-
fast. I'm sorry. I know it's good, but it's like I want to talk about the kids and Lonnie, and it's like, oh, we're moving on. No, I think the thing that is with Lonnie that is weird to me, even because it's not in the film, but it feels like it's going to be in the film, is that I feel like you meet that kid who's constantly drowning, and you think it's going to be like in The Sandlot, where it's like he's drowning because he wants to be with the girl, but no, it's just he's a bad swimmer. That's all I wanted to say.
No, I think he is. It is like The Sandlot, because he definitely shoots Cody a dirty look when he's walking
Yeah.
away from Lonnie during their
Yeah.
meeting.
But it's subtle. I haven't seen The Sandlot literally since I was a child, and it is weird. But I also feel like at work recently, as in like 3 or 4 months ago, my boss constantly is like, "You can't show that to kids; it might be inappropriate." Like I wasn't allowed to show the new Space Jam because the trailer has him going, "What the Matrix hell?" and that kids can't hear the word hell. But my boss was like, "You know, it was a great movie from when I was a kid was The Little Rascals. So I'm just going to show them the 90s Little Rascals movies. And I'm watching this. I'm like, this is so much more sexual jokes than anything that's out now. And it's weird. I do not like this at all. Like, I'm uncomfortable watching this film.
Kids make those jokes, and that's yeah. They used to do that all the time, and like even Goonies has some moments where it's like, why are kids talking about this?
Yeah.
Like maybe 13-year-old boys might mention it, but they would be like,
Little Rascals, it's literally like they're like 6-year-old. Like, a kid said to me while we were watching Little Rascals, this kid turns to me and goes, this movie's weird. Why are they all talking like they're grown-ups? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, it's confusing me too. I don't have an answer for you here.
When I was 12, if I was going to talk about a girl, the most I would like say to laugh is like literally like boob. And then we'd laugh, and then we'd move on. We wouldn't sit there.
I want to be very clear. I'm not saying I want this. I was just surprised. I think one thing that is really good in the current development of how they market animated movies in general is I saw this tweet that pointed out the difference between the poster for the first Puss in Boots and the new one. In the first Puss in Boots, there's like a poster where like the female cat clearly like has a butt. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a very sexualized, bizarre sexualized picture of the cat and Puss in Boots. And then the new one, you know, it's obviously just like, oh, she has eyelashes. You know, like, that's what makes her a girl. She has, like, that's the signifier that she's a girl. She has eyelashes. And that's it. And it's, like, great, like, because she actually looks like a cat and not, like, bizarrely, you know. And
over-sexualized.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I'm glad we're moving away from that, but I think that's also kind of where we started on Lonnie, where it's like she is very clear, like she is the one woman in this movie, female character in this movie that isn't a mom, and her character design is, I think, very sexualized.
Question on the table is the penguin hot now? Not like now. I clicked on an article from the Surf's Up fandom that I saw on Google that said Lonnie was the tritagonist of Surf's Up 2007, and I'm like, that's so not true at all.
The tritagonist.
I would say the tritagonist is Chicken Joe.
And yeah, we should talk about Chicken Joe because he's like actually the best character, right?
I mean, arguably, in the first 10 minutes, the tritagonist is the
Little Bird.
I love the Little Bird. The Little Bird has the best character development.
The little Jewish bird?
He has the best character development in the entire movie, and he's a bird.
I liked him a lot. Like, and also, it's one of those things where I'm used to these...
do it. Like, he's like how a bird is in our world to that movie, where he's so insignificant that you don't talk about it.
This actor played Anthony Scaramucci on The President Show. That's kind of funny. I was just looking up this actor, because this actor, I feel like, is like... You know, movies, non-Pixar movies, or even some Pixar ones, but non-Pixar movies in the 2000s animated are always, like, loaded up on the voice cast, right? And I think this movie is pretty loaded up on the voice cast for the main characters, with the exception of Mikey and Tank. I thought
Tank was Will Arnett.
Well, I immediately clocked it was Dietrich Bader.
I think that's some Diedrich Bader disrespect.
Yeah. No, I immediately clocked it was Diedrich.
Oh, did you know Diedrich Bader from other stuff? Because I saw the name and I didn't know who that was.
I know him because...
Well, I knew him from Veep, but honestly, I knew him from this before I saw Veep. So when he shows up in Veep doing his normal talking, I was like...
No,
I really was... When I first heard Tank, I was like, that sounds kind of like Will Arnett. That's what I first asked. I was like, is that Will Arnett?
I immediately clocked it because he is Batman. And Batman the Brave and the Bold, and on Harley Quinn. Even though I don't watch Harley Quinn, but I immediately... Batman the Brave and the Bold, you know, everyone, like, talks about, like, what their Batman shows. And most people say it's Kevin Conroy's, but I did not actually watch Kevin Conroy's Batman growing up. And,
so good.
I mean, it is... From what I've seen, it is really good. And I've played the Arkham game, so I know what Kevin Conroy's Batman is, you know? Yeah. And from what I've seen of the Batman cartoon, I really do
Beyond.
Like it. Yeah, and I've actually watched more Batman Beyond than I have of Batman the Animated Series. But Batman the Brave and the Bold was the Batman show I really watched. And Diedrich Bader is Batman on that. So when I hear Tank, I'm like, oh yeah, that's Batman. Like,
that's a good Diedrich Bader.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the reason I have a good Diedrich Bader is he also played on the Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Hoss Delgado, and the very first D&D campaign I ever played, I made a character named Hoss Balbone, which was just Hoss Delgado, but with the backstory of Rocky. Like he was a boxer, but I did everything in characters. Like, yeah, let's go do this, guys. Like I did. So whenever I do my Batman voice, I do just do my Diedrich Bader, which I do think is one of my better impressions. Is it good, or is Mark just being nice to me?
But no, it was solid.
Good. Cool.
I want to give a shout out to the horribly misspelled and clearly not enough effort or time was put into this website, the Surf's Up fandom, because wow, there's a lot of.
You're telling me there's not a big fandom for Surf's Up that would maintain a Wikipedia?
There's no
film?
useful information here.
Let's
read Chicken Joe's. Let's read Chicken Joe's description real quick.
Go straight to the appearance.
Hold on, I want to read this word for them.
That's real.
I know. It's just like this whole thing is funny to me.
I need Mark to remind me what a deuteragonist is, though.
It's just the second
whole-
protagonist.
Wait, okay, so wait, then wait, I need to know then
We had
after
an
this.
episode titled that.
After
Yeah, I
this,
see the deuteragonist, but not Z.
that's what I think. After this, you need to look up what Z is, because Z, I feel like.
Because Z's Ben Kenobi. He's not
Yeah, I
Han
guess.
Solo.
I guess.
But what
but, all right.
archetype is that? Sorry, but go on. Sorry.
All right, so let's find out. All right, yeah. So Chicken Joe's appearance: he's a rooster with orange, yellow beak, blue eyes, green tail feathers, brown feathers, and an ass that don't quit.
What? Just a flash.
surfs-up.fandom.com/wiki/chicken_Joe, bro.
What?
Is Chicken Joe hot?
Yeah,
It says it mentions him being a stoner on the wiki, which is funny because
Yeah,
that
it
would just
does.
never come up in the
Joe's a very relaxed, smooth-talking rooster who acts like somewhat of a
To
stoner.
jump back to something Mark, I'm pretty sure said 20 minutes ago, and I said something too, and then he did not continue on the conversation. Yes, I've seen Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh yeah. Well, I just didn't know how much. I don't know. This is a really interesting collection of people who were like significant around this time because
Yes, it's a very 2007 cast. This is the month before Transformers.
Yeah, and I mean this is
Transformers 1.
Yeah,
The movie that launched Kelsey Grammer's career, right?
Yeah, definitely.
and I think that
from the ashes.
Oh my gosh, you guys gotta watch
Was James
that
Wood
trailer.
not in a Transformers movie? I feel like he definitely should have been in one of those like early ones.
I don't.
no, I don't.
He
think
feels
so.
he feels like he should
would
be in
like
one.
a voice
Yeah.
of a later.
I did not
Transformer.
know that
Yeah.
John Heder was in Monster House.
Monster House?
Of course, man.
Which is on the commercial for that's on the DVD, might I add.
He's got that
Monster
2007
House
flow.
has some shockingly bad animation considering the other
goodness.
movies that were coming out at the time.
I
in
just
my
want to
opinion.
say, yeah, Surf's Up has shockingly good animation.
It's like on I would say it's on like Polar Express level.
I
and
think it's
Beowulf
way
level,
worse than
like
Polar
it is
Express,
that.
in my
I
opinion.
think it's aiming for a different art style
Yeah.
and does not quite.
It's
get
almost video game-esque.
because it's like, trying to look more clay. I feel like it's trying to look more clay. Like the hair is very purposely not
yeah, and it will.
good, but it's like we know they can do it better.
Yeah, animation styles
it's
are so
like-
interesting because, like, when people figure out their animation style and they start to realize what makes it pop and look really great, you come up with something like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and the animation is just peak. But it's like, you look at something like Monster House, and it's like, you enjoy the movie, but you go back and you watch it, and you're kind of like, ugh. Like, Season 1 of Clone Wars, you're like, this animation is uncomfortable.
Season 1 of Clone Wars is superior. Do you mean the 3D
no, I
ones?
just mean the first few episodes of Season 1 of Clone Wars. For me, the animation was just like...
He's talking about the CGI one, Mark.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Can I know we're going long, but can I go on like an all-time detour right now because John Heder allows me to do it? Like one of my great stories that I don't think I've ever dropped on a podcast.
Perhaps.
All right.
Yeah, only if it's really good.
I think it is very good, and it also can relate to Shia LaBeouf in a weird way. So, listeners of the podcast will know, and Mason and Thomas are about to find out, that I used to play a game where you would write movie outlines and then we'd simulate the box office, and it was a good time for all, where it's like, you pick the actors, you cast the actors in them, and you pick the actors, you pick a director, and like, yeah. So, you write movies for that game. This is like, right now, we're in 2015, this story. Or a little before 2015, actually. I started playing this game like in 2014, 2013. And everyone has like their pet project in that game, where it's like an actor they like who is not famous, who they're trying to make fictionally very big. And my choice for that, personally, was the actor David Henry from Wizards of Waverly Place. The older actor from Wizards of like the older brother in Wizards of Waverly Place.
Yeah, the older brother.
And the thing that's really funny is Mark's aware of this. The game has since rebooted, and I played very briefly in the reboot, and then I no longer do. But when the game rebooted, weirdly enough, someone else succeeded where I failed, and now Jake T. Austin is like an A-list superstar who played the younger brother on which is what he plays in this game. But I cast David Henry in a variety of smaller projects that were like well received, but you know, like they were like small movies. You know, they were like The Fault in Our Stars type of thing, where it's like, oh yeah, it might make money, but like it's not like a big thing. So for my big franchise movie, what I gave them was Thomas the Tank Engine, directed by Michael Bay. Where he played the human lead, obviously. And this is how it relates back to Shia LaBeouf. However, the bit did not stop there. Because this website had other, like, this website also had, like, was a message board, too, that was beyond this game. And people, there were, like, there's about 10 people on the message board who play this game. And then the message board, like, has 200 other people on it, right? Like 200, like it's a very popular message board, but it's not like everyone plays this weird niche game on it. So, and this bit with David Henry spills out eventually, where I go see Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 at the opening Thursday showing because David Henry has a role in it, stuff like that. And one thing I do that's very exciting to me is that I post a thread as soon as it's announced that there's this bad-looking indie drama that comes out called Walt Before Mickey, where David Henry is in it. And David Henry is playing Rudy Ising, who is I believe the guy who steals Oswald, like helps steal Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. But the reason I brought this all up is I was looking at John Heater's Wikipedia page, and I see that he plays Roy Disney in this movie. That is the whole reason I brought this detour about David Henry and how I'm obsessed with David Henry.
Yeah, man. I'm really glad that he got, you know, Napoleon Dynamite. I watched it once when I was, you know, I think just too young to appreciate it, but glad that he got his, you know.
I see that he guest starred as a tentacle in All Hail King Julian, the spin-off of Penguins of Madagascar.
I wanted to talk about how, well, I don't know, this is another person who's problematic. I think Shia LaBeouf is an underrated actor. He's one of this. I don't know if this is a hot take. He's one of the few. Sam.
Sorry.
Jesus Christ, that was like that took me there.
Sam.
But I mean, actually, Transformers might be a better example of this. But I think he's one of the few people that I can like listen to, and I think they talk like a real person.
No. That's my impression of Shia LaBeouf in the Transformers movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's not. I don't know. Some like when he was in Nymphomaniac, I did not like him, but I think Transformers.
Nymphomaniac? I was wondering if you said A or...
Yeah, I was going to say that changes everything.
No. Lars von Trier. He plays the love interest, and I don't think he's I don't much care about him.
Interesting. From what I know about Nymphomaniac, it was everything except that Shia LaBeouf was in that movie.
I'm really curious how Indiana Jones 5 is going to address him. That is one of my biggest interests with that movie, is like how will they acknowledge this happened? So I wanted to mention this with Diedrich Bader, but we moved on very quickly. But same time, I want to call out, because we also talked about this with Mikey, is that this movie, even though, I think Shia and Jeff Bridges and Joey Deschanel are all fine. I think John Heater does a good voice performance. I just think James Woods is, like, of the celebrity performance. But who really stands out in this movie to me are, like, the more of the working actors, the more of the voice roles that are just voice actors. We've already mentioned, we didn't say his name, but Mario Cantone, who plays Mikey, and then Diedrich Bader. But on the same time as Batman the Brave and the Bold was another great Cartoon Network called Symbionic Titan that no one talks about. And the entire movie, whenever it cut back to Glenn, who's Cody's brother, I was like, who is this voice actor? I cannot place it. And now that I have the cast in front of me, I noticed that it's Brian Posen, who was fantastic on Symbionic Titan. And I just wanted to mention that because I think he does a very good job in his very small part here, voice acting. Because I think that is a role that is very boring as written, and I think he makes it funny. And I say as written because I also think the animators do not really do much to make it exciting either. That's all I wanted to. That's all I wanted to get back to with Brian Posen.
So you mentioned how the working actors kind of make the movie. I agree. The urchin who we mentioned, the fire urchin, who's like broken, fractured, broken. That was actually a trans voice actor by the name of Maddie Taylor.
Oh, awesome.
Which I just find an interesting fact.
That's very cool.
They had a trans voice actor for... I mean, the actor is also in Open Season.
They were Elliot, the deer with the broken antler, Open Season.
A lot of things in Open Season.
I will point out that they were not out at the time this movie came out, but that does not take away from them being a trans woman. But it doesn't take it away from them. But I'm just saying that, like, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think that is a cool factoid that I had no idea about. And I would also say that the Surf's Up wiki page needs to be edited to remove their dead name. Maybe I'll do that after we are done. Because I had no idea because they were listed under their dead name on the Surf's Up.
Wow, this Maddie Taylor person has a lot of voice actor work in these early...
So I'm gonna edit that after this because I think that's bullshit. That her dead name is on the. And
we criticized the Surf's Up wiki page, but now we're going to use it to make a positive effect in the world.
Maddie Taylor was also George W. Bush in South Park.
That's a big role actually on South Park.
Yeah,
whoa!
Open Season, like. Tough Puppy.
I did see the Tough Puppy.
Oh, Tough Puppy. Wait, that's what all those characters are from? There's a lot of Tough Puppy characters.
Yeah, a ton of Tough Puppy.
Well, I thought I saw that she was a storyboard artist on Tough Puppy too. I thought it said.
That's like that. Yeah, this is like Frank Welker levels of voice acting. You know, like Frank Welker is like Scooby and Fred and Scooby Doo and stuff. Like she's kind of doing everything.
Wait, guys, I will say one last thing I want to say about her filmography before we move on. Is that, oh my god, she played the Cheezosaurus Rex in the Kraft mac and cheese commercials. Yeah, that to me is like a whoa. That's like a big deal, you know.
She was sparking the Family
so
Odd Parents.
Cool. I'm sorry, this is so cool to me that when she transitioned, like in real life, they had her character transition too on the Loud House. That is so cool to me, actually. Like, on a Nickelodeon cartoon. Sorry, I think that is really cool.
Yeah. What year?
Let me look when this episode. She transitioned in the episode Gown and Out. So let's go to the Loud House Wikipedia page. We gotta put a picture of her character in the Loud House now on the episode picture. The episode she transitioned in came out in August 2018. The character on the Loud House.
I gotta ask. Did Surf's Up change y'all's lives?
Absolutely not.
Hell no.
It might just be. It might just still be changing my life. It keeps coming up.
It's very slowly changing everything.
If I was gonna pick a Pixar movie that has changed my life, it would be Finding Nemo.
Yes. But how does Surf's Up measure up to something like that, or just a regular Pixar fare? Because that's kind of the question. Is like how, you know, this is the co-director of Toy Story 2. How does this film measure up to what they were making at Pixar?
Absolutely. Like, I'm sorry. I know you guys have very precious memories of this film, but the whole idea of like, how does this compare to Toy Story 2? It's like, well, it's fucking terrible in comparison to Toy. I think even if you're a fan of this movie, I think if anyone told me, no, yeah, Surf's Up's a better movie than Toy Story 2, I'd be like,
this has Green Day in it.
I do like the soundtrack. The soundtrack is really good.
What about the surfer testimonies and them being like, I love to be in the wave. Oh, it's amazing.
I can enjoy Surf's Up for what it is, but I am also very adamant about the fact that there is a scale for movies and TV shows and everything. And there are so many movies and TV shows that are horrendous, that are bad, that miss the mark, that people love. And Star Wars is one of the consistently worst put out as a collective movie genres, I guess you could call it a genre basically at this point, but people still eat it up and are obsessing over it and love it, and I am one of those people. Do not get me wrong, I don't hate Star Wars. I love Star Wars.
You stay in Andor?
But if you don't like Star Wars is bad.
You stay in Andor? We always have to ask him.
I haven't watched it yet.
It's so
good. I know it's really good, but I want to see when it's actually good. I want to wait till I can have a lot of content because I don't care about the Star Wars content coming out besides like Andor. And hot take, I loved Rogue One. A lot of people don't like it. I think Rogue One's a great movie for what it did, and it was one of the better pieces of Star Wars to come out.
It's solid. But I see Mark's face, and I agree with Mark's face that we need to stay on Surf's Up. We need to.
Yes.
how does this contribute to our conception of what Pixar is? I think I look at the generic characters in this movie and just go like I know, like, to compare to Toy Story 2 and to Pixar in general, I mentioned how like this movie has the female character, there's one female character. I think Toy Story 2 has obviously there's other like side small female characters besides Jessie, but I think you even just compare Jessie to Lonnie, it's like night and day difference between who is actually like a well-written character that's important to the plot.
Yeah. Jessie gets fleshed out, and you learn about the character, and
she's like, so important to Woody's arc in that film. Whereas Lonnie's an afterthought here. And
Lonnie is quite literally there to be a female, and nothing more. Like for Surfside.
Like that lifeguard bit works, but after that,
and I want to clarify. I don't think I think one thing with Pixar is their track record with women characters is also not great, but it's still like you were saying, like comparing like, you know, something that's really terrible and doesn't work at all to something that's great, and I just look at those two things. It's like, well, by comparison, Jessie is absolutely like the greatest character of all time. You know what I mean? Like. Yeah. I do want to say, because we have anything else worth mentioning, unless you guys wanted to say, I think you guys already said your conception of Pixar and how Surf's Up relates to it. You're pointing at me.
I want to press again about my Shia LaBeouf thing, because I think that his performances in Surf's Up and Transformers influence me in the way I think about like what is interesting to watch on screen. It's basically that. And it's incredible because, of course, like I said, Shia LaBeouf's career beyond that is not much, but I think that's affected me too in like what I value, because I am not super, like, my brain, if I'm performing or whatever, it does not jump. I stutter a lot when I'm improvising, and I think a lot of that comes from like Shia LaBeouf performances and being fascinated by that when you're like a kid, but in like intentionally, but I value that more than I do some other
like
things.
How Rick Sanchez adds in the stutter, and it's like that's part of how he talks, and you're like,
like, Danny, don't do your Rick and Morty impression again, Danny, never again.
Well, the thing about that is that it's like it's very unnatural. Like I think that
Justin Roiland and Shia LaBeouf, definitely two people of the same breath. Anything else worth mentioning? I did want to say one other thing about the movie too, which is I saw on Wikipedia, not with citation, because the annoying thing about the Wikipedia page for this movie is that it features no production information at all, even though that's what I'm very interested like what the timeline of this project was, but I'm not going to do separate research of it. And we've already established that the Surf's Up Wikipedia page, like separate wiki, is not very reliable. Like that's the one thing.
They have like 8 characters listed under characters when you look at it. Like...
Well, I will say about the production, I do know that they did mocap.
That's what I was
going to
mention. That's what I was getting into. Yeah,
to get the shakiness, and I do remember from watching the DVD long ago that they had behind the scenes footage, which had the actors standing up and talking to each other, and they filmed that for references, so it wasn't just like filming the booth recording. And I think as a reference.
How many movies did that back? Like. With the animals.
I wanted to Happy Feet famously uses mocap for all the dancing. And I think maybe even a little more than that. Happy Feet has a ton of mocap in it. And obviously, Polar Express, Monster House, Beowulf, all those are in the mocap space. I think it's interesting to me, and we might talk about this next week with Ratatouille as well, is that Pixar infamously hated the idea of using mocap at all. Like, they have said that, like, Ratatouille, and the reason I say we might mention this next week is because Ratatouille has a disclaimer at the end of the credits saying, absolutely no mocap was used at all, 100% real animation was used. We did not use any shortcuts, like mocap.
Real
animation. That's not exactly what it says. I will look at it next week and actually, like, take it, like, a gander at what it says.
They move pretty goofy in that movie.
But it's, the thing is, like, we talked about this with Corpse Bride, is that, like, part of the appeal of animation is that it's a little sloppy. Like, you want it to feel like it's made by someone, personally, unless it's, like, you're watching Avatar 2 and you want to think you're on Pandora. But, like, when it comes to an animated movie, it's like Spider-Verse, you mentioned Spider-Verse.
I feel like the ironic thing about that is that you're watching Avatar 2, because it's, like, this massive state-of-the-art achievement, and I'm like, I'm somebody made this, and it's like so hard for me to be immersed in that sense. But I'm with you.
But like,
Sorry, I had opinions about Way of the Water.
We have a lot of I drop Way of the Water takes all the time. I will not acknowledge that thumbs down because Mark knows it will derail the episode for an upper hour. But
Not a fan.
I'm a huge fan. It's one of my favorite movies of last year. I caught that.
Did you see Way of the Water though, or just the first one?
No, the good first one I enjoyed.
Oh, you saw Way of the Water?
Yeah.
Oh, there will be blood.
There will be water. But yeah, I thought the mocap was interesting. I felt like that was worthy of mentioning because I actually think it does look really good. I don't really notice it in the character animation. In fact, knowing that apparently it informed the character animation doesn't have me as interested. But I think the idea of using the mocap for like the idea of like we want the camera to be accurately shaky, I think that is kind of cool.
I love mocap. I think it's so cool, and I think it's really interesting when they get to like incorporate it in cool ways, like when they had Smaug in the Hobbit series.
Were the surfing parts like?
I thought Mark implied they were.
Oh, the Smaug thing.
No, they weren't.
They weren't.
The surfing
my bad.
was. I mean, there were a lot of visual references filmed, but from what I remember, it was mostly like dialogue. I remember something particularly between Shia LaBeouf and Jeff Bridges. This is just something I saw from the DVD extra long ago. I don't remember everything about it. I actually would push back. I think that mocap is interesting, and I think especially for something that is shot like a documentary like this, and which exploits the power of documentaries to focus between the foreground and the background and shifting focus so frequently. I think that there's some value in that. I don't know where it came from, and I'm sure that some of it was pre-directed, but I would get a lot of value of shooting like full staged scenes for a film like this.
I fully agree, and that's what I think is like the redeeming quality of the Hobbit trilogy as a movie franchise is Smaug, Benedict Cumberbatch's performance as Smaug, and I think it only plays as well as it does is because Benedict Cumberbatch asked if he could do the mocap for it. So he could get into the character, so he could be Smaug.
I love the videos.
The videos are freaking hilarious. But like, I think it adds to him being able to delve into the character and make it so enjoyable. Because Smaug is far and away my favorite part of the Hobbit trilogy, and I don't care about most of the rest of the movies at all. I love Smaug though. Favorite.
I feel like Mark and I might have, and I say Mark and I because Mark texted me something that's about what I'm about to say earlier this week. I think we might have a response regarding Avatar 2, but I don't know, again, if we want to open that can of worms. But I will say, I love Sigourney Weaver in Avatar 2, and it's definitely something you can only get with mocap.
I shut the can of worms.
Thank you. Good idea.
I stomp on it.
Good idea. Good idea. No more talking about Sigourney Weaver, Danny. We don't care that you like this 70-year-old woman's performance. That was me talking to myself.
Are you talking about... Just, and so I understand, are you talking about Kiri?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's incredible. You remember her name because I was.
I remember Kiri.
Sigourney Weaver.
I remember everyone. I remember Loak. I remember Payakan, our Lord and Savior.
Well, I looked it up after, and I was like, "Was it kids?"
It's funny. There's movies where you know the movie so well, but don't remember like the names of characters. For like the first 5 or 6 watch throughs of Good Will Hunting, I didn't know what the hell Robin Williams' characters was named. I didn't know it was Sean Maguire. I didn't take that.
I didn't. I was about to say like I don't. That's a movie with Matt Damon, Robin Williams, and Ben Affleck.
Sean, bro, it's about him being Robin Williams in the greatest film of that is a good movie.
All right, Mark, give your spiel at the end.
Well, at the end of every episode, we like to give the film something. A lot of shows will give star ratings or thumbs up or thumbs down. We don't like to do that. We like to give the film a physical object. Like, if you actually had to give the film something, what would you give it? And Danny is right to grunt and bring up the issue of, like, it doesn't have to be a physical object. Maybe it can be an experience.
I'm not giving it a physical
or, I don't know, a performance or something. Whatever you feel. So we like to lead this off so our guests have some idea of what's going on. But Danny, do you want to give it something?
So my thoughts towards this film are, in fact, mostly negative, as I said, even though I've been I think I've been more diplomatic than I normally have been towards a movie I don't like. But my Letterboxd review says this is one of the longest 85 minutes movies I've ever seen. And my opinion on that, on how to fix that possibly, even though I know this is like the most annoying thing that people always suggest of everything. But I also think it would have made this thing more successful in 2007 than releasing it in between Shrek 3 and Ratatouille in theaters, is instead of this being an 80-minute movie, a 75-minute movie without credits, I will instead give it a little more fleshing out to Lonnie, a little more fleshing out to some other characters, and extend it into a 10-episode miniseries of 30-minute episodes, 22-minute episodes. And that will work better because The Office clearly shows that there was an appetite for mockumentaries on television, and I posit that if Nickelodeon, because as far as I know, the only cartoon reality show we ever got was Total Drama, which Mark knows I have a story about eventually that I'm not going to drop now because we're going too long. But
you don't think Creature Comforts is kind of the same thing?
Creature Comforts was a one-off thing, and it was pre-Office, though, is my thing. I'm talking about, like, during the Office craze, in the mockumentary craze. But yes, you're right, Creature Comforts does fall into that, too. But I'm saying if Surf's Up was a TV show, maybe it would have worked better. Maybe we've gotten a follow-up to it, too, that wasn't just, you know, a WWE ad.
WWE.
Yeah. So I give it a recut of it being a season-long show.
I'm a follow-up. I don't necessarily agree that it would be better. I'm not saying it would be worse. I don't know what it would be. But what I do know is that I think the mockumentary format can work in TV format or movie format, just like it did with What We Do in the Shadows. Exactly. Which has worked as both, obviously, a movie and
I
television.
prefer the show. That's all I'm saying.
I love the movie. I loved the movie. I thought the movie was
I think the movie's
great.
good.
And it was, as someone who had not watched the show yet, a fantastic way to be introduced to the show. So I thought the movie was solid. And so I think I want to give to Surf's Up a little bag of sardines. The Penguins earned them. Okay, I think for what it is, considering where it was released, like you said, between Shrek and Ratatouille, I don't know if it had much of a chance at all. But for what I think it is, which is just a run-of-the-mill kids movie that was never going to be Toy Story, I think it does its job, even if it's not necessarily the best money-producing movie or whatever. I like it for what it is. I'm giving Surf's Up a bag of sardines.
Nice.
Go Penguins.
Recently, I finished reading the 6-volume series Akira that was in our house because Mark bought the Katsuhiro Otomo series Akira, and it was a masterpiece of graphic novel and fiction and everything. And the protagonist in that, Kaneda, is basically Cody Maverick done right, where he's just the protagonist who moves the story forward, and all that matters is that he is that guy. And so basically with Surf's Up, I just want more. I just feel like if there was more opportunities, then it could have been as good as one of the greatest pieces of fiction ever written. But for now, I think I'm just going to give it a Costco membership because everything's going right for it, and it just needs that little extra step to get it figured out.
We went full circle with that. I like that one. Mark, what do you have? What are you going to give it?
I think that the big problem with this film is that maybe I haven't seen the ChubbChubbs Save Christmas because apparently it wasn't included on the DVD. So, you know, with all of its problems, I think what Surf's Up needs to push it over the edge is to include both the ChubbChubbs and the ChubbChubbs Save Xmas in a special edition Blu-ray release. That's what I would give this film.
A Blu-ray release in 2023. That's great.
What do they do now?
I don't think they do anything now.
Excuse me?
Like,
I own Turning Red on Blu-ray.
The ChubbChubbs?
Oh, no, Blu-ray.
Oh, I was going to say the ChubbChubbs are
Blu-ray.
I'm afraid.
The ChubbChubbs have come and gone.
The ChubbChubbs will miss you.
The ChubbChubbs went the way of the dodo.
So, guys, this was a lot of fun. And now we just ask our guests to plug themselves. How can people find you on the internet?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Mason_Babcoc1. Babcoc, B-A-B, cock. Just how it sounds. But, yeah, that's where you can find me on Instagram.
Any attention I could possibly direct toward the University of Iowa Improv Collective, or just any of the comedy going on in Iowa City, Iowa,
that's a nice shout out.
is all I need. all I want. So, yeah. Or on Instagram, I'm Thomas__Young.
Danny, what are we doing next week?
Well, as the TikTokers say, we're going to be talking about Remy, the Ratatouille, the rat of all our dreams.
That's not even true, because we're not covering that until, like, 2 years.
We're covering
from now.
Ratatouille, the normal Ratatouille. Am I not allowed to sing?
No, because it's the end of the episode. We can't, like, cut
That's
into
true.
the
That's
things.
a good point.
Yes, we have outro music.
Yeah, it's true. We have a very special guest lined up. If you've listened to my other podcasts, he's guest before. I'm going to be very vague about his name, but let's just say he is a person who has actually directed a movie. So it's very cool. He's the guy I went to Knott's with too.
Bring me the cube.
Yeah, we have Michael Bay on for Ratatouille. That's our guest. Next time it's Michael Bay for Ratatouille.
Raised you from the ashes.
Looking for the Ocean is produced by Mark Young and Danny Vincent. Our original artwork was done by Sarah Knopf, and each episode is edited by me.
If you'd like to be notified about new episodes, you can find us on Facebook at Looking for the Ocean: A Pixar Journey, on Twitter at Pixar Journey, on Instagram at Looking for the Ocean Pod, and on our website, lookingfortheoceanpixar.podbean.com.
If you want to know what I'm up to, or find me on social media, you can head over to markyoungperformer.com.
And if you'd like to see all my takes on all the movies, you can find me on Letterboxd at Blankmans. If you'd like to hear me on another podcast, I also have The Snub Club, a podcast about film history. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.